Welcome back, you guys. I'm Tassie, and this is my ghostly update vlog. So, I was asked recently questions about like cemetery and stuff like that, and then we'll get into that. And then towards the end, I'll talk briefly about like traditional ways to ask a shaman for their services. So, I mean, it's kind of weird because a lot of these things are like really normal to me. So I think in a way I don't realize how many people might have questions about these things, especially if you've never done it before. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, I actually had a viewer who reached out to me and mentioned that every time that her siblings and them would go to the cemetery, they would always fall sick shortly after. And I just want to give a brief synopsis of the whole cemetery because a lot of when you have somebody who's deceased, especially for like Asian families and stuff, they like to bring food to the cemetery for their loved ones. So, briefly, just to let you guys know, whenever you go to a cemetery, I always recommend some form of protection before you go, whether it's a string, praying at your saka, your family shrine, if you guys have one. If you have one, okay, like let's say your parents have one, you can actually go to your parents' place and beg at their shrine if you wanted to. So, even if your own house doesn't have one, you can go to your parents. Now, as far as like bringing food and all that great jazz, so when you guys go to bring food, some of you, and I think this is kind of like general knowledge, but just in case anybody doesn't know, like whether it's McDonald's or it's Chinese food, like people bring just like regular takeout food to the cemetery. So whenever you bring it though, before you put the food down to the cemetery and call your loved one to come and eat it, you want to break off some. So if it's a hamburger, open it up, rip a bit of the burger off, okay? If it's like Chinese food or something, separate some of it. And you want to put it off to the edge, and then you can say out loud that for the other spirits, this is the food that only you can have. You cannot eat the other food. It is not for you. So you have to like set up these barriers in that way. So that way what happens is the other spirits around the cemetery don't all jump in and grab the food. So after you've set this off, and a lot of people actually do this still, even if they're just eating outside. Like if you're having a picnic or a barbecue and you're out at the park, normally you're supposed to take a little bit of food and put it off to the side and tell other spirits that you guys can only have this food. The rest of the food, it is not for you and you're not allowed to have, or else what happens, other spirits will come and eat the food with you. So, and that's not a good thing. That's why. So after you set off the food, then for the other spirits around the area, you don't know who they are, it's okay. Just tell them they can only have that, and then the real food or the rest of it, you give it to your loved ones. And then you tell your loved ones to come and eat. This is what you're bringing for them. So the whole point of this is because, especially for like Hmong people in particular, I've mentioned this in other videos, we believe in the three spirits. Now, one of those three spirits is actually the one that guards and stays at the cemetery, at the grave, and watches like, their burial spot and all that stuff. So you're actually feeding that spirit. So the one that you feed at home though, because if you're wondering, like during the new year, when you actually like, and you're having like a meal and you're feeding your ancestors and stuff, you're feeding the spirit in the spirit world. That is the spirit there. That's the second one. The third one is the one that goes off to be reincarnated. So you don't feed that one at all, okay? So that is the huge difference here. Now, of course, at Hmong funerals, if they crack the egg, because there's an egg that's kind of involved, if you don't crack it, the spirit stays. But if you crack it, the spirit of the cemetery gets dispersed and is not there. So then you really wouldn't go to the cemetery and feed them. I hope that makes sense. Now, as far as when I was younger, a little short story here, you guys. When I was younger, I loved looking at cemeteries. Like, you're just driving by, of course. It's not like I'm hanging out at the cemetery. So, we'll just be driving by, and I love looking at the cemetery. It's so peaceful and so calm, like. But then now, when I became a shaman, if I look at the cemetery as we're driving by, I get chills all up and down me. So I can't look at cemeteries. I like just look straight. I don't even like gaze anymore like I used to. And what I actually see. So if I'm in the spirit world and I go to a cemetery, for some reason, I go into this plane of existence and I go to a cemetery, there is always an owner of that cemetery. And, if I go in or I do anything, I have to ask that owner for permission. So that's more of like the spiritual shaman part. So just so you guys get a little brief understanding of that. And as far as like cemetery, I've never had a really, really scary or weird experience. I've never gotten sick after going to the cemetery either. Some people, for extreme measures, especially if you are pretty sure something followed you back, or especially if you get scared when you're at the cemetery. And this also goes hand in hand for those who work at the cemetery. I actually know people who used to work at the cemetery. They would cut the grass and they would always get really scared there. You definitely want to do the fire method. And if you have like those low grills, like outdoor kind of grills, camping and stuff like that, or like the turkey burners, but you want to get the lower ones, basically you want to turn it on and jump over it. That will really help you. Same thing if you guys have a gas stove, or use a lighter if you are desperate and you do not have a gas stove, you only have an electric one. So, just again, wash yourself with the flames. It really just helps to cleanse yourself. You can also do other methods of cleansing, but that's why it's so good to protect yourself before you go to a cemetery. And it's kind of funny because, like, I swear, Hmong people are very superstitious, especially about like cemeteries. Nobody wants to live by a cemetery. So my boyfriend right now, his house is actually by a cemetery. And I was like, when I first started dating him and I went to his house, it was nighttime, right? When we went to his house, I didn't see the cemetery because it's like pitch black over there. It's like this huge cemetery. And all of a sudden it's like in the morning and I'm like, oh my God, you live by a cemetery. And he thought it was the weirdest thing, that it totally like bothered me that he lived by a cemetery. And I'm like, you don't understand, like Asians, we don't like it to live by a cemetery, or we don't like it that anybody we know lives by a cemetery. It's just really creepy. But I remember, and this is like really funny because I always say that his backyard is like pet cemetery because they've had a lot of pets and they bury them in the backyard. And it's like super creepy. Like, to me, that's like super creepy. Like, no, like I'm not okay with that. No. Yeah, no, that's really creepy that they bury their pets in the backyard. I mean, he actually was born and he lived for a couple of years before he moved to the cities on a farm. So I think like for his family and everything like that, I don't know, they're just okay with that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. I think that's so creepy. And the thing is, like, when we go like grill or hang out outside, I'm like, don't tell me where you bury the babies. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. All right. So this next part, we're going to talk briefly about what you basically bring or how to properly ask a shaman for services. It's going to depend on the service you're asking. So I'm going to give you guys a few scenarios. And again, this is going to be very dependent on the shaman and their lineage, like what they require. So typically you want to call the shaman, whether you know them or not, or they've done services for you in the past. It is actually considered very rude to just show up at a shaman's house. It's not like a business, like they have an open sign and you just come in. This is literally like typically at their house. And you want to call and ask when are they available. They may have clients already there. They may have plans that night. So then you want to schedule a time, and you do not want to be late. Lord, you do not want to be late when you're going to go and seek out a shaman's help, because you're asking them to help you and then you're going to be late. Like, don't ever be late, because you could be late and you show up and they will send you away. So don't waste your time and don't waste theirs. So definitely make sure you always let them know if you're running late or something like that. Give them a call. Now, very briefly, typically when you call, you just ask for that shaman, and tell them that, you just want them to take a look at you. You could tell them that it's an illness, or in case you just want to say shayai, which is looking at your future, okay? So you basically just give them a gist. And when you are seeking out a shaman service, do not give too much details, okay? Because the less details, the better. But don't just sit there and not say anything either. So, because you're trying to get honest feedback from the shaman. If you give them too much information, it can make them biased on their response to you. So just tell them, maybe if it's an illness, obviously tell them it's for an illness, because they will require different things depending on what service you're asking for. An illness, is typically pretty standard. If you're looking at a future though, they may require flowers. They may require extra things. So just keep that in mind depending on that shaman, because there's so many different lineages. Now, I don't have everything to show you guys because I don't practice anymore. So it's not like I have a whole stack of this kind of stuff, but it's pretty standard. So this is going to be the Joss money. A lot of people will burn these, especially Asians, for spirits and stuff like that. This is pretty standard. It's like a little booklet. It's got like, I don't know, 10 pages in here. I've never counted them, you guys. It's probably like 5 of them, but anyways. So these are actually pretty big. So for anyone who has never seen this before, so they do have different sizes, but I'm going to tell you, get this size. Okay, don't get the tiny ones, okay? Like, nowadays, a lot of shamans, they prefer the big ones. Like, they have, like, ones that are, like, this big, okay? They have ones that are, like, this big and even smaller. Don't get those. You want to get, like, the big ones if you can. So, if they say, like, gai bondo, so bondo is basically, like, a pack like this. This is what they are referring to, okay? So, if it's going to be like a huge bundle, they'll tell you they want the huge bundle. Like, you know, like the big bundle. But this is pretty much what they're referring to if they're saying ipando. So this is it. And it's basically just one stack. And these are like 99 cents, you guys. They're already kind of stacked so that you can just grab a pack. You do not have to count the pages, you guys. If you have a pack at home and maybe somebody took one sleeve out, it's perfectly fine. You can still use that. You can still bring it, okay? The shaman's not going to take it and count every page, okay? Like, I don't even know how many's in here. So the pack of Joss money here, that is just one part. Sometimes they ask for incense sticks. I don't have any incense sticks, so I'm going to use my little Chinese fortune sticks here as an example. They actually look like incense sticks. Oh, that's so funny. So incense sticks, one thing I want to mention is that they actually have the ones that are short like this. You do not want to bring these, okay? You want to bring the tall, long ones. It's just kind of like you're kind of stingy if you get like the tiny ones, okay? So they literally have incense sticks that are this height. So make sure that you guys get the long, full ones. And, you know, you do not have to buy the whole pack. Like there is like a whole pack for maybe like $1.99 for like a little small bundle of it, a whole pack of that. And so you don't have to give them that whole pack. You can if you want to, especially if, you know, you don't know anybody who needs incense sticks and you don't want to carry it around forever, then it's fine. You can give them the whole pack, or else you can just buy it, open it up, and take out how many they tell you to bring them. A lot of times they will tell you to bring an exact amount. So then the proper way to put it on the shrine, okay? Oh, another common item is just white flowers that you can find at any grocery store. So those are like $5, right? Or something like that. So you can just buy one of those as well. So the proper way to actually assemble it all and put it on the shaman's shrine, you should put it on the shaman's shrine. Don't just hand it to the shaman when you walk in. It's actually more proper to put it on their shrine. So what you're going to do, for anybody who doesn't know, you literally take however many incense sticks they told you, or if you're going to give them the whole pack, you can. And then you just want to take it, and it doesn't matter if it's the silver side or the gold side, okay? You're just going to put it together like this, and then you roll it up. Like 5 years later. So now you have it rolled up like this. And there goes all my fake incense sticks. We'll just pretend there's incense sticks in here. All right, I like to hit mine on the table so that it's like straight like this. And then you want to take, you know, like all your cilantro and green onions that you buy and it comes with rubber bands. You just want to wrap it with a rubber band. Now, if you are giving the shaman money, you put it right here. So pretend my thumb is money. Okay, so then I have cash and my purse is just on the other side of the house. So anyways, so literally you would put your money here. All right, so this napkin is representing money. So bam! So my money is on here. My incense sticks are in the inside and it's wrapped up. So you walk into the place now, okay? And it's a regular house. Look immediately for the shrine. Just start looking for the shrine. If there is more than one shrine, you ask them, oh, which one is the shaman's shrine that you're coming to see? If you put it on the wrong shrine, you cannot remove it and then put it to the right one, okay? You cannot. You cannot. If you put it on the wrong shrine, then you have to ask that shaman for the services, not the one you called for. Please don't mess this up, you guys. Okay. All right. So you have now located the actual proper shrine. What you're going to do is you want to have it leaning up. So sitting straight, you want to set it somewhere where it's not going to bump the stuff. And shamans have a lot of things on their shrine, right? They have like the water, they have like a candle holder, they got a candle there, they got like all sorts of tools. So don't bump, try not to bump anything. And you want to have it sitting up so it's standing there and it can lean against the wall. Okay, so that's okay. But don't like move things to make space for your stuff. And yeah, but typically it should be standing up leaning. So that's what you want to do. All right, now this next part is going to depend if you're a boy or girl. And it depends. If you live with your parents, you should have brought your parents with you to the shaman service majigity, okay? So if you live with them, if you live on your own or, you don't have any parents, you can go by yourself. Granted, this part is going to depend on what you're trying to ask the shaman though, because some things the shaman will not help you unless you have your parents with you. And that's more along the lines if you're trying to ask them to be your teacher. So let's say now that, you've set your offering down and you're a boy. As soon as you put your offering down, you need to start to bow in front of the shrine, okay? You want to bow to the shrine. You want to literally be standing up, get all the way down. You bow your head downwards. Like some people, they'll touch the floor, and you can if you want to. And then as you get up, you kind of like wave your hands like this. And then, you call out like, oh, I'm here to ask for your services. And you can say it in Hmong or you could say it in English. And then you just bow down again and do it again. So you want to do it twice. Now, if you really want to, you can bow towards the shaman, but it's actually the shrine that you want to do it to, not to the shaman. You can, but like after you bow to the shrine, you can then turn and bow to the shaman too if you want to. But you should not just bow to the shaman and not the shrine. You cannot forget the shrine, okay? Because the shrine is where the spirits are at and they're all looking at you. So you want to make sure you bow to the shrine. If you are a girl, and if you had to bring your parents, your father would do that part for you. Your father or your mom would put the offering up on the shrine. Women, though, do not bow. So if you just came with your mom or something like that, neither of you guys are going to bow. What you're going to do instead, it kind of goes by order. If you have somebody who's older with you, so if it's your aunt or your mom, whoever came with you, if you guys are all females, the elder one will actually ask for the services for you. But, if you came by yourself, of course, you're the only old one. So you're going to go ahead and just ask the shaman, sit down, greet them, chit chat for a little bit. And then the shaman will sometimes give you a cue. Basically, they'll say, oh, well, why are you here today? And then that's when you say, you need to use the word ta. Okay. And that's basically, I'm begging for your services, or I'm asking you to help me for my services. So just tell them, I want to call you for your services, or I want to ask if you can help look at me. And basically you want to get it out that you are asking for their help. So, and then the shaman will normally sit there and nod their head and they'll be like, okay. And then they'll get up and then they'll go do their thing. Oh, that was a lot, you guys. It's actually really easy though. I mean, like, it's kind of like ripping off a Band-Aid. It's like the first time you go to the doctors by yourself. It's really easy. It's just, you're just communicating. That's really it. Now, let's say you are asking somebody to be your teacher. So you still do the same thing the first time, right? And then you come back. So after, what happens is the teacher will normally try to see if you guys are compatible by trying to make you shake on their bench. And if you are, you come back another day. So, okay, so then you're like, oh, okay, so we're going to go home. We're going to prepare things, and then we're going to come back and ask you to be whoever's teacher, right? For a teacher, you need to ask them, what do they require? Because, again, everybody's different. So, like, for my lineage, we would then require the big pack of incense sticks. It's a requirement now. You have to bring the big pack. And you know how I had mentioned this whole time about just one of these? They also sell, it's like $20 only, you guys. But it's like a ton of them. It's like a huge pack. It's wrapped in plastic and everything. It looks like a stack of newspapers, basically. Then you have to bring that and a chicken. So, And you also have to bring cash. So typically, like for my lineage, it's $100 for the first shrine. So you need to bring all of that, and that's pretty much it for the first two. And that part is just to ask, is if that's the proper part. So the first time you came with just one of these to ask, like, oh, there's something wrong with me, and then they have you shake on their shrine, at their shrine, and then you shake, right, and then you come back and then you prepare that big bundle and all that jazz, and then you offer it to them. So that's kind of how it goes. Now the chicken can depend, like if you give the chicken early, or you can wait until they actually raise your shrine. So again, just ask. You need to just communicate with them, and they will tell you. It's really easy though, you guys. And you will be surprised. Like, they actually have tons of people who always come. And I will tell you guys that I really hated it. Because, okay, like, people think it's going to be like, oh, just 20, 30 minutes and they'll be done, right? People like to stay for a very long time. So my best advice to you guys, if you guys do go out and seek one and you actually show up and you go through with it all, watch out for how long you're there for, please. Because especially if it's like a weekday and you came like at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, they probably didn't have dinner yet. And for a lot of Hmong people, it's very improper to just eat in front of people and not offer them food. But they probably don't have food prepared to feed more than themselves, you know? So watch the time. Don't plan to stay there the whole night. Like, I've had people come over. I don't eat until like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, because they stay there the entire night and they just keep talking and talking. Their phones are ringing. People at home are wondering where they're at. They don't go home. And it's kind of like, oh, well, I got things to do. And they're like, oh, well, just really quick. And they just keep going. They just keep going. So I used to hate it because, you know, it's like my whole evening's gone just because his client wouldn't leave. So keep that in mind. If you do seek out somebody or you do go to see somebody, don't try to stay over an hour, okay? Especially, I don't care how serious it is. Don't go over 2 hours, okay? Like, an hour, it's kind of like, okay, it's just an hour, right? But then, so just nip it. You know, like, come back another day if you have more services and more things you want to ask and you want to talk again. You just keep that in mind. All right. So that's it for this video, you guys. Until next time.